What's going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to walk through the after sortie steps for the first mission in BattleTech Aces. This is mission number 1. We all decided to do the very first mission in the book. And so I was filling the sheet out and I thought, maybe I'll just record a quick video for anyone that has questions and you can just kind of see how I walk through it. So I'm not going to show anything from the campaign book here. I was debating just showing what it looked like, but I thought, there's no point. If of course, if you want to see it, you can play through the mission. So no spoilers in this video, other than the number of points that you can get, but that's not really a spoiler because you can see that before the mission starts. But anyway, you'll just see the number of points that you can get out of this mission. That's the extent of the spoiler. So I have the rule book here, and I'm gonna do the 2 sheets separately, and then have the rule book side by side here so we can walk through that. There are a couple places in the rules where I got a little bit confused, so I'll point those out for you. I'd say that's kind of par for the course with this rule book. It's really good, but there are a couple things where I just wish it was a little bit more specific. It'd just be perfect if it did that. But in any case, I think I figured it out, so I'll just point those out in case you're struggling with those as well. Okay, the first step is to trigger game end waypoints. So the waypoints in this system are used as a way to change things that happen during the game. So if you watch my tutorial video on the training simulation, the waypoints change the game immediately by saying, okay, this building or this waypoint is a supply cache and you have to destroy it. So it's kind of like a mid-game change. Some waypoints will alter the game state. So they might say, okay, you've achieved your objective, it's time to do something else, or oh, hey, there's going to be some additional units that are going to come on the board as that happened in that training simulation. So there's those types of waypoints, and there also are game end waypoints that are going to give you instructions for how to handle your game end stuff. I'm not going to talk about whether this particular mission had that, so I'm just going to skip over discussing that part of it, but just be aware that some of them will have that, and they may impact what you're doing with the rest of this. Second is to read the sortie outcome. So in the same place you find the waypoints, which are in the back of the campaign book. So they're not next to the mission you're doing. They're actually in the back and in their own separate place. It lists the waypoints, and then it also lists the sortie outcome. So you're going to read the sortie outcome, and there's going to be some instructions in there. So for this particular mission, there were instructions about, and I think all of them have this, but they tell you how many SPs can your named pilots get? What's the maximum that they can achieve from this mission? So you'll make note of that. Some campaign missions are going to give you a keyword that's going to impact other missions in the campaign or unlock certain things that you can or can't read. So you'll take care of those as well. And then it gives you some fluff about what happened, what was the result. And you can't fail these missions according to the book. It's actually right here. Tells you you can't fail, you just have to redo the mission. So the stories, that part of the story will be the same because you have to complete the mission. The points though themselves, you would know that already from the mission objectives. It will tell you how many points you can achieve for those objectives, and that's where you're going to come in and figure out how much you got and how much you had to spend. Okay, so for example, if I'm going to switch up here. So this is just my campaign log, and I originally thought you'd do it here first, but you're actually going to do it here first. And then you go back to the other page and you fill in the results. So on this sortie log, you're going to put in the sortie number. So in this case, it was 01 for me. The income from the primary objective was 900. And I did achieve that. Obviously, you have to achieve it in order to complete the mission. There were other objectives, and I will say I literally just by the skin of my teeth succeeded in this mission. It was one move by the Aces side that could have ruined it for me, but I got lucky. Other objectives there were, I did not achieve those, so I wouldn't get any points for these, but there were other objectives, I just didn't get them. Your difficulty modifier for the SP earned, you'll put that in here. Most people, I'm guessing, are going to start with standard, and that's 100%, so there's no change to this calculation. So your total income would be 900 points in my case for this mission because I just completed the primary objective and nothing else. Okay, the next step is over here. Now, I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but this part was easy and related to the sortie outcome, so I'm just taking care of that part first. So in our list here, though, we have check for casualties. So it says, if any of your units were destroyed during the game, you must roll for each to determine the condition of the unit and its crew. So in my game, I'll just lay these down, make them easier to see. Well, not the vehicle, but I had and that's the wrong one. Okay, sorry, I had to swap it out. I had the LRM carrier there. It was actually the Manticore in my mission that was destroyed. And then I also had a fire starter that was destroyed. These were my 2 destroyed units. Now, the Manticore survived with 1 pip of internal structure, but the critical hit was Snake Eyes, and so it got an ammo explosion and was destroyed. The fire starter was kind of the normal way. All of its internal structure was destroyed, so it's more, more traditionally destroyed. So we're going to go through what happens with those. And it says a unit destroyed during a sortie can usually be salvaged and repaired. However, sometimes the damage is too great to be able to repair. A unit is truly destroyed in any of the following cases. Number 1, it suffered an ammo or fuel critical hit and does not have case or case 2. Bye-bye. So that one had an ammo hit, so I can't repair it, which really stinks. But, I kind of figured that when I rolled it. I thought, I'm never getting this one back because it makes sense, right? An ammo explosion, detonating a whole bunch of ammo, you're not going to get that unit. The unit is airborne and destroyed by crashing. Now, I found this one funny because I mentioned when I reviewed the cards in the rulebook and things, there's no rules about playing with airborne units in this box. So if you follow the path of, I have the Alpha Strike box, which just has mechs. Now I'm buying this box, which introduces the light version of ground vehicle rules, infantry rules. It doesn't have anything about VTOLs, and it doesn't have anything about aerospace. So I assume they mean you can try these things if you want, but there's no support in terms of the rules. So I just found it a little bit weird that it suddenly references an airborne unit. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like double speak. Like first it's like there's nothing about VTOLs or aerospace, but then later in the book they act like, oh yeah, you might be using these. All right. Next is the unit is an emplacement. They're not. The unit fails a salvage check. So that's what we'll be doing here. So depending on the type of unit, you're going to have different numbers you need to roll in order to salvage the unit. So for battle mechs, they're the easiest. They're a 4. So if you roll a 4 or higher, you can salvage the battle mech really no matter how damaged it is. Combat vehicles are a 6, battle armor is an 8+, and 10 infantry. This, whatever that means, salvage the infantry. I guess the surgeries are successful. So again, it just says combat vehicle, so I guess that includes VTOL if you're using it. But in any case, all right, I'm going to roll for the fire starter. I get a 9, so I am able to salvage this fire starter. Now, that doesn't mean it's free. I do have to repair it, and that's going to be on my sheet in a minute. Okay, next, wounded or killed crew. For each destroyed unit, whether truly destroyed or not, so this was not truly destroyed, you must check the condition of any crew, including pilots. So that would be the mech pilot. Now, I don't have a named pilot for this unit. It was just a regular mech pilot. I'm going to stand it up since it's salvaged. Sometimes the crew can survive even if the unit does not. A crew killed or unit destroyed critical hit kills the crew. That makes sense. So if you got the crew killed or the unit destroyed or whatever, if you get the 12 when you roll critical hit for the mech, the pilot's dead. A crew stunned critical hit, that would be on a ground vehicle. That wounds the crew. And for each other destroyed unit, roll 2d6. Let's do that again. I get a 6. Okay, so if I got a 2 or a 3, the crew or infantry is killed. Okay, glad I didn't roll that. 4 to 6, the crew or infantry are wounded. Generic crew must be replaced, so that would include this unit. It's generic, it's not named. Named pilots are wounded and must skip the next sortie. So there's going to be a cost, I'm assuming, to replacing. So I guess that's pretty bad. And then 7 to 12 is the crew escapes unscathed. Or the infantry, they escaped unscathed. By the way, if you have a named pilot, you can't use an edge token to re-roll this. You're bound to whatever you roll on this. Or not. As a solo game, do whatever you want. Okay, after you check for casualties, update your player force roster. So I'm going to go back to my force roster. I'm going to strike out the Manticore because it's no longer part of my unit. Any pilots that were previously wounded. So if I had a named pilot that was damaged or wounded in this mission, then in the next mission they couldn't participate, but they would recover. That's what this means. So they would recover after that next mission, and they'd be ready to go. Record newly wounded named pilots, if any. So this wasn't a named pilot, so I won't be doing that. And you can record units lost and named pilots killed in action on the memorial section if you wish. There's a memorial area on your force list. You can put your named pilots that get killed into that area if you'd like. Okay, so this pilot is wounded and needs to be replaced. That's what this is telling me. All right, step 4. This is the big one. Now we're going to calculate our income and expenses. So after each sortie, your mercenary force has some bookkeeping. Your contract includes combat pay based on your performance, but you'll also have to rearm and repair your surviving units before you can claim any earnings. These expenses are not optional. This is part of the campaign fun, which is how much did that mission cost you? Was it worth what you got out of it? So you're going to use this sheet here, and this really walks you through all the steps. There are a couple things you need to check in the rules, and I'll point those out. But for the most part, this is really straightforward. So it talks about income here, which is the part I already did. So I got the 900 points. That was it. There's no modifier for difficulty, so straight 900 points. For reconnaissance, it's going to say you record the total SP spent on reconnaissance. This mission did not have any, so I'll go ahead and put a 0 there. Waypoints, the total SP amounts from waypoints, text and during the sortie. I'll just leave that empty. We don't know. And then now we're going to start rearming. So any units that do not have the ENE special ability, and if you're not familiar with what that is, on the unit card down at the bottom here, there are certain special abilities listed. If any of the units has ENE, that basically means it only has energy weapons, or it has so little ammunition it doesn't matter. And those don't need to be rearmed because they don't use any ammunition. All of my units do, because I think I picked like older units. They're not clan, and they're not like the newer, more modern units from the Inner Sphere. In any case, so all of them have to be rearmed. Now I lost the Mana Core, that one's out, so I only have 5 total units. So I'm going to put a 5 in here, and you multiply that by 20, and so that's going to give me 100. That's my first set of expenses is 100. Then I go to personnel, number of wounded or killed crew. So this is going to be 1. I had 1 pilot for my fire starter that was wounded. I have to pay 100 to hire a new pilot for that fire starter for the remainder of the campaign. I don't have any named pilots that I have to replace, so I put 0 there. No issues. Now we get into repairs for mechs that were not destroyed, units that were not destroyed, personnel that was not hurt. This is just straight up. You had units, they took armor damage, they took structure damage, they had critical hits, whatever. You have to pay to repair those. So back on the rulebook, there's a list here that tells you, it's actually on the flip side of it's on your force roster. In the bottom right, it will tell you down here all these steps as well, and it includes these calculations. Okay, so if the unit was destroyed, you're going to do size times 100. Now this unit was destroyed. I have to pay to repair it. So the size for the fire starter is a 1. Okay, so I'm going to put a 1 in there. There goes another 100 points. So this unit was extremely expensive. 200 SPs for this unit. And it really didn't do anything in my mission, so. All right, crippled units. So for any, if the unit was completely crippled, and sorry, I wiped all these cards, by the way. If you don't see any damage, that's why, because I wiped them all. But for crippled units, I had just 1. It was a Victor, and it was down to its last spot of internal structure, so it was completely crippled. It also had reduced its movement by less than half, so it was crippled that way too. So I had 1 crippled unit, but unfortunately it's an assault mech, which was a size 4, so that one's going to cost me 240. Ouch. Okay, any units with structure damage or criticals. Any units, if I pull up a card again, if I pull up my Zeus, because this one did have both of these. So any units that have damage to the red dots or have damage to any of these, if they've taken any critical hits, they're going to fall under this one right here. So I had the Zeus that had internal structure damage, and I also had the Enforcer that had internal structure damage. So together, 6 total. There goes another 240 points. Units that only had armor damage, I had the LRM carrier, which only had armor damage. Now for vehicles, it will tell you here that combat vehicles will only count, and combat vehicles, battle armor, and conventional infantry count as half of their printed size. So the LRM carrier is a 3 size. So I'm going to put a 1.5 here, and that's going to give me 30 points. Wow, that is a lot. So now I'm going to tally up the total, and that's going to be 480, 510, 610, 710, 810. So, wow. Whew, yeah, that costs a lot. It's going to be a Pyrrhic victory, I guess. Okay, so my total income minus total expenses is 90. So I only got 10% of what we got in income from this mission. Okay, so a little bit more to do. We're going to flip over to the other sheet now. So since I learned that, I can now put my 90 in my earnings. And then it's going to talk a little bit here, and I'm not going to get into improving your name pilots, but you do have to account for them because the sortie outcome will tell you what is the maximum number of points your name pilots can receive from this mission. And I was a little bit confused because it says up to X amount. And so I didn't know if that meant you can choose how much to give them, or if you give them the maximum if you can, and if you can't, you reduce it. So this paragraph right here is a little bit, it kind of makes it sound like it's both. First, it says, if you have any earnings from this scenario, you must allocate a portion to your named pilots and divide it evenly between them. The sortie's outcome waypoint will tell you the maximum SP each named pilot can claim. Okay, the maximum. Okay, but then it says, if you do not have enough earnings to give all pilots their maximum share, divide your earnings from the sortie between the number of pilots evenly and have each named pilot gain that amount. Named pilots never take SP from your war chest. So they have to take, that means they have to take it from this amount. They can't go up here into my war chest and take points from there. So again, I'm not going to give any spoilers. So let's just say the sortie told me I could give them a maximum of 60, and that would mean I have to give them 60 if I can. If I can't, I'm going to divide this amount. So I only had one named pilot. So we're just going to say, okay, they get the maximum 60. There's nothing I can do. They have to take that 60. If I had two pilots, I would not be able to give them that. So I would divide the 90 in half because there's two pilots, and I would give them 45 each. If there were three, I'd divide it and give them 30 each because that's all I have left over. So let's just say 60. I'm going to subtract that. And then I also subtract any purchases I'm making. I'm not going to make any purchases now, and I think it would be hard for anyone to do that early on in the campaign. I'll show you why. There's a list here of units you can purchase if you'd like in between missions. And you have to use this list, I guess, if you're playing the advanced rules, because you're sticking to the era and what's available on this planet. If you're not using, you can buy anything. You can purchase additional units. The purchase price is the point value times 40. So if you look here, like the Zeus is 40 points. That'd be 1,600 SPs in order to buy that. Yeah, so it's going to be real hard to buy anything after this first mission. So I won't be doing any of that, so that's going to be 0. If you wanted to, you can also sell units, and that you can do that for half the cost. So if I sold the Zeus, it would be 40 times 20, so I could sell this for 800 points if I wanted to do that. Okay, so that will leave me... so that will give me 30 extra points. So with my starting war chest, I'm going to have 430. And then over here, I'm going to write the keyword that I gained, if any, from the outcome of the mission. And then that will be the end of my bookkeeping for this mission. Now, over here on the rules, your next steps are going to be at the end of the outcome for that sortie. So after you read through all of this, how to do all of this, all the points that it's giving you, any extras it's giving you, any information about the name pilots, once you're done with all that, it gives you some fluff, and then at the end, it tells you, okay, here's where you can go from here. You can pick your next mission. These are your options. These are the things you can do. So those are all the steps you'll follow. If you're still confused and you need more help, there is a huge example in the rulebook, which is very cool. It walks through all the things I just did with a similar example. So if you prefer to read through things, that would be a good place to go. But hopefully the walkthrough I just did helps you just kind of understand in a real world scenario how this would work. And as my cat starts climbing on me, I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching.